starting the manufacturing performance days. Since we talk about the efficiency as a part of the MPD days, we will actually move immediately to the first sessions, and it will be a panel session. So the discussions will start from the John Deere's highlights vision for the future, and now we will move to the manufacturing world. We will discuss about the green and digital transformation within these twin sessions what we have for this morning. But first we will start with the digitalization, so giving more depth to the topics already highlighted in the first sessions. So I would like to invite to the stage first my colleague, Dr. Andrew Lynch from IMR Ireland, who will host the next session. So please welcome Andrew. The stage is yours.
Give me that. Can you hear me? This is an Irish accent. My apologies up front, okay? So I will mispronounce some of your Finnish wonderful names, but it's lovely to be here. And could we have a small round of applause for the beautiful Minna and the beautiful Harry? Wonderful job in organising. Well done. I give no credit to you, Mr. Chairman, of course, but I do like the initiative that you said, this persistence of this particular program. I've been here, this is my fourth, I think, Harry, over the years. Absolutely wonderful. I remember the first place anywhere in Europe that I heard about additive manufacturing in a coherent manner was in Tampere. So you should be very proud. This is a leading process that we've got here. And certainly I'm delighted to be part of it. Can I just get a sense of the room if I can? How many people here are not from Finland? Look at that, you are. Anybody here from Ireland? Am I the only Paddy? All right. We're clearly not spending enough money on the advertising on the Irish sense of this, but I will certainly encourage more of my partners to be coming here. Actually, now that I have you, and we've got a wonderful panel, I am going to introduce them. Relax, I'm going to do this. I want everybody to stand up. Everybody stand up. There you go. You've all been asleep now. There you go. Is everybody standing? Are we all standing? Now I want you to wave, okay? My mother likes a nice selfie here. Everybody waving, everybody waving. There you go. That is going to be the shot. I'm telling you, this is going to be the shot that they're going to put out here. We have a wonderful panel. Can you still hear me? You can still hear me. Good. I'm driving the microphone guy nuts now because he's not sure which microphone to turn on. Good luck with it. You're doing fine. They can hear me. I'm going to introduce my panel and let them come up here. And of course, Amy Chen, the innovation lead with KONE. Amy, come on up here, please.
Thank you.
It's lovely to see you. You're very welcome.
Sit.
I'm sitting in the middle, okay? That's the important seat. You stay out of my seat. Yeah, that's
okay.
it. Yeah, it's okay. We just
so
get
then the
things
rest
clear.
is apple-graph.
Wonderful gentleman coming with us here. Kenneth Korhonen, who's a director for a fantastic company called Stereoscape. When you're out there, check out their line. This technology is fantastic. Kenneth, please come to the stage. Good to see you, Mikko. Mikko Kerttula, who's the Industrial Applications CSC Lumi Supercomputer. Really interesting what's going on here nationally and in Europe. Kenneth, you're very welcome. Please have a seat. I won't tell you again. Over here. Come on. Over here. There you go. You can sit here. Good sweet jeez. You know what? Like it's a fairly straightforward stuff.
This is for me.
The middle seat is still taken.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I'm worried about Dirk. Will there be a seat left for the man? But anyway, Dirk Didascalou. Look at that.
Whatever.
I almost did it correctly. Dirk Didascalou, who is the CTO at Siemens AG Digital Industries. Dirk, you're going to give us a couple of moments of your fantastic time and a wonderfully entertaining session, yeah?
Thanks
is it
for
good?
having me. Yeah, it's
Is
perfect.
it good?
Yeah.
Is it entertaining?
They have to judge
They
afterwards.
have to judge. Okay, he tells me it's exciting. Very well.
All right, thank you
Good
so
for
much.
Thanks, sir.
So good morning also from my side. It's a pleasure being here in person. So I'm not from Ireland, I'm from Germany.
That's great.
So how many Germans in the room? A little bit more. So apparently advertising in Germany works any better. So maybe 2 or 3 words about myself. I'm actually very acquainted with Finland because my first life I got educated in the mobile industry working for a company called Nokia. The Finns remember Nokia? Anybody remember Nokia? So I was building mobile phones, billions of them. And even my old boss, Antti Vassara, is here somewhere now heading VTT. So we were building billions of phones connecting people. But before the mobile revolution, if you wanted to connect, let's say, the chair you're sitting on 30 years ago, that cost thousands of dollars. And then come the mobile revolution, and thanks Finland, and thanks Nokia, and thanks everybody else there, that brought us these systems on chip. If you remember those, they give you compute, storage, sensing, and communication in a very tiny yet affordable packages. In every phone you have, and everything that connects. Now that you can literally connect everything, every asset, every machine on the planet, so that you can sense the environment like you never could before. And you've seen this with John Deere, what they're sensing. But if you have now these billions of assets which produce data, you need a place to process and make sense of that. And for that, you need now the opposite. You need the biggest compute and the biggest storage you can think of, and that's, of course, the cloud. And I moved to the cloud, partially because Microsoft bought that part of Nokia, but then afterwards I also moved to Amazon Web Services, the leader in cloud. We had the privilege with my teams to build up what is called the IoT services and specialized services for non-IT equipment. And I learned with thousands of customers there that most likely one of the areas where this technology makes most sense to be applied is industry. And that's when I moved a year and a half back to Germany to the leader in industry and automation, Siemens. And you might ask, why industry? Why does industry matter? Industry matters because it enables our lives. It produces the chair you're sitting on, that is now also hopefully one day connected. The food was processed that you were eating this morning. All the nice little mobile phones you currently carry are built with it. The vaccines that you hopefully got are there, the cars you were driving. So industry is really a big driver of our lives, 1/3 of GDP, of course, so it's a great driver for wealth. But today we have this dual challenge or twin challenge, I understand. If you look at the scorecard of industry, it's not that nice. So industry is responsible for roughly 1/3 of all CO2 emission on this planet. We consume more than 1/3 of all of the energy, and our recycling rate, our cycle rate, is really lousy. So we have an obligation to do something if you want to live this planet. And I have 3 kids, 2 of them adults now, in a state that is livable. So we have to do something. And it's not only climate and industry. It's also, you remember, we had this COVID epidemic and what it did to all of us. And now here in Finland, you're very close because I put down the conflict that's currently raging in Europe and in other places in the world. And there's always competition. So these 4 Cs, or because I lived a long time in America, if you turn this around, C4, of course, stands for dynamite. It's a very explosive mixture. And you still, in industry, have produced our products in time and in quality and bring them to the markets. And in the past, when things were stable, it was easy. Yeah, you always said in industry, never change a running system. Yeah, you wanted a factory running for 30 years, don't change anything, just make it a little cheaper, a little bit more efficient. These times have changed. It's not stable anymore. So now with climate and with you see it also put lack of talent in anything that we have there. Today, a lot of stuff is thrown at you, even from competition, anybody else. So the most important trait in industry now is speed. It's speed to adapt. Adaptability and the speed, how can you react? Speed disproportionately matters now also in industry and infrastructure, which are typically the rather slower areas of work. And that's why I like to put this nice little, if it works with the clicker, point out, it's really speed of movement. And there is nothing wrong with this picture. So the pixelation is there on purpose because now I come to the dual challenge. So, because we talk about how do you get faster in industry? Industry is typically asset bound, a lot of capex. You need to buy a lot of physical stuff and do stuff in physics. And funnily enough, the biggest lever for speed is digitalization, particularly in industry, because the more assets you have, the more you will benefit if you can do things in software. And that's the goal of saying is, okay, wow, if I want to do something sustainable and everything I need to do is to be more efficient and need to be faster, the biggest level is digital transformation. And why is that so important? Because instead of digging the dirt, not only for manufacturing, but getting iron ore, producing metals and raw materials, building products, throwing them at the wall, at Nokia at least we were throwing a lot of phones at the wall or at the floor to see whether they break, and then optimize them. What if you could do all of this digitally? If you had the models to simulate, to optimize, not only in real time, but 10 times, 100 times, 1,000,000 times faster and double, and then only do it once and once in real life. It's so much more efficient. And that's when you hear about digital transformation. It's getting everything in digital and use the speed of compute instead of wasting valuable resources. And when you hear these fancy words like digital twin, it means nothing else than that you have a digital representation of any asset, of any process that you can use then for those practical purposes. That's when we talk about digitalization. But digitalization doesn't stop there. It's not just about simulation. It changes everything in a company. Because normally in industry, we are very process-driven. Kanban, yeah, you have heard about this. Or the machine that changed the world, that you over and over do the same process and optimize the steps. But in digitalization, you're not blindly going from step A to B. You know about context. And whoever has tried to optimize something like, I don't know, value chain in a factory or material flow, you know it's counterproductive, but you don't optimize a single machine because you might clock the system. Or for those mathematicians, not about the local optimum, it's about the global optimum. So at any given point in time, you have context and take decisions very differently. 5 times in the same situation, 5 times you take different decisions because you become cyclic in that sense and can be automative, and you heard about it, adaptive in everything you do. So very different way of how you will operate. You become data-driven, not process-driven anymore. And of course, when we talk about all this nice, we need to somehow connect the real and the digital world, yeah, you still have to connect it. The sensors that we've seen on the fields or in the factory, yeah, with all of the different levels that the predecessor explained so well. And therefore, you of course also need hardware that is able to connect, and you need the software then to make sense of it. And I just wanted to give you a little input about what data we talk about, because as we said, here the company like Siemens, and that's the only 2 slides I have about Siemens, because I don't want to waste too much time here, but every 3rd machine of the world is controlled by a Siemens controller, program logic controller. So we know a little about what's happening there, and just these program logic controllers alone, they produce 100 terabyte at least an hour. To give you a perspective, that's all the Netflix movies in the world in every language. And like most of those Netflix movies, this data is never watched. It's never used because people don't know how to use the data. It's just wasteful. Imagine that you have all of the source information, nobody uses it, and that's why Siemens, we created what we call Siemens Accelerator, which the goal of this digital portfolio, which we call a business platform, but in reality it's a digital portfolio with connectable hardware so that you can get all of this information. All of the software that we will operate in a more software way means as a service with open APIs that you can mix and match it and make it open also for an ecosystem of suppliers, because nobody can do this alone. Digital transformation, which is the biggest lever of getting faster. And why do we need to be faster? Because we have these pressing things like the green sustainability challenge. Cannot be alone. You have to do this. And if you like, digital transformation for me is the biggest can opener. So no more closed system need to be open. And therefore I'm really happy to be on the panel that we can discuss what that means to all of us. Thank you very much.
Super, gentlemen. Isn't he a lovely speaker? I'll tell you, I'm not sure what you got from that. I'm just going over here to get my microphone, or my little clock. You want me to finish at 10? Correct. Good. What I got from that is that the Germans are at fault for Nokia's demise. I think that's where we are. But good. Dirk, tell me, Darwin told us that it's not the strongest or the fastest, it's the fastest to change. And that seems to be the case in terms of your talk there. Do you worry for Siemens? Like, you know, when I see Siemens, I think it's one of the companies in Europe we're the most proud of. You know, it's one of our own almost, and it's a multinational that's quite unlike another. And I'm always fascinated when I hear someone speak at your level, you know, at just the profound size of this organization. At your level, do you guys talk a lot about SWOT analysis, worrying about threats and opportunities and strengths and weaknesses and so on. Just for you as a corporate level, you know, and I know you're on the digital industry side, is that a concern at a strategic level? That there's going to be smaller, faster companies that'll come in that latch onto all these machines and clean you guys out?
If you hear anybody from the leadership at Siemens, it's all about speed. It's all about transforming ourselves. I mean, in order to gain speed, what do you need to do?
Digitalize.
No, what do you need to do physically in order to gain speed?
I'm asking the questions here. You keep going. Yeah.
So we all went to school.
If
you want to go faster, what do you need to do?
Go faster.
Yeah, and that is called acceleration. Yeah. Have you seen the entire project of Siemens? So our CEO, when we went out last year, it's saying is the future of Siemens, what we bet the farm on, to use a John Deere analogy, so is Siemens Accelerator. So the entire goal is to make us, but even more importantly, our industrial and infrastructure customers faster. Is that what we want to be measured at? So
isn't that the key to Siemens? I mean, you're not just transforming yourselves as an organization, you're transforming everybody else. Do you know, are they always aligned in terms of strategy?
That's the entire goal. You could argue, maybe we shouldn't say that a Siemens employee, I couldn't care less about Siemens. It's about what we can do enabling all of our customers, because as we said, 1/3 of all machines are controlled by Siemens. So if we allow our customers to be faster, more nimble, and start moving at the speed of software, we have an outsized impact on their efficiency and therefore on the, if you like, greenification or sustainability of the planet. And that's what we're here about.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much. Brilliant speaker, really enjoyed it. Let's give him a proper round of applause. Really enjoyed it there. Thank you. Amy,
yes.
You're very welcome. Tell me a little bit about yourself and KONE. I know I just saw you sneak it in there later, but just go on, tell us a little bit about KONE and indeed yourself. We're interested.
Well, I think maybe I'll start with one sentence about myself.
Please.
I've been working on innovation over more than the last decade on both the horizontal mobility and the vertical mobility side, and also both with large companies and with startups. So it's very exciting to see how we can grow new businesses and bring new products and technologies to the market. And with regard to KONE, I think to the topic of twin transition, we have been for sure the first in our industry to commit to sustainability and scientific targets. And also we were the first to introduce digital experiences, so our DX class and 24/7 connectivity to the market. But of course we realize that this is a long march we're talking about, and it's not enough to just realize our own scope 1 and 2. It's also very much about how can we help our customers to realize their sustainability goals. You were talking about industry. We are in an industry, but we're also very much in the built environment. So the emissions made in the built environment, embedded into the buildings, these are huge. So how can we help our customer in that part, the transition? This is really what we are continuously working on.
So lots of help, that's what I'm hearing. We should be delighted with ourselves here, all this help. Tell me, you mentioned earlier on, Amy, about startups and large companies.
Yes.
I'm interested. Now, I know myself, I was in a startup and I did it myself and worked for large multis, etc. My question is, do you see large corporations beginning to value more the mindset of a startup as opposed to just seeing them as chaotic idiots that are all over the shop? Are you seeing more of that?
I think absolutely. I think you have a lot of companies today valuing innovation and valuing entrepreneurship, because we are in a world where we need to speed up and there are a lot of uncertainties. And this is where then we, even as large companies, need to move in a much more dynamic environment than what we're used to in the past decade.
How do you bring the entrepreneurial mindset into a larger company?
It is not easy. Let's be very open about that. But I think it's a matter of taking baby steps. So you make the changes, I guess with every transition, you make it step by step. To me, this entrepreneur part is a lot also about combining technology and business together to serve customers. And you just do it slowly, step by step. If you have one idea, one solution that get to the market and everyone can see that it's working, then you can do more and more and more. So it's really a slow process. But I think the more success you get along the way, the easier it is to convince
Slowly,
others.
step by step, seems
Correct.
counterintuitive for an entrepreneurial mindset. But
Yeah.
Kenneth, when we're talking about business and innovation and so on, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Yeah, so my background is in operational excellence. I've been working in the oil and gas industry and electrical sector practically from 2007. I'm a lean expert with practical lean experience. I've been training hundreds of people in process improvement, designing new production layouts and production lines, building them and so forth. So I consider myself a servant leader. Human centricity in how you're improving things on the shop floor or any organizational level is extremely important for me. We're talking about speed, acceleration. It doesn't really come without changing the culture. Culture in organizations is super important. Get the people engaged. I work now in technology, XR technology. I got into it just because I saw the potential, massive potential, the scalability on how you can utilize this technology to have your people more engaged. We're talking about speed. Okay, we need to learn, unlearn, relearn a lot of things.
XR technology for the uninitiated.
XR, extended reality. So we're talking virtual reality, augmented reality, how you're going to utilize this in your different processes. You can use it anywhere.
Stereoscape is in that space, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay.
Stereoscape, we provide marketing, immersive solutions, VR trainings, and connecting the workers on the front line, digital tools and softwares for making those processes digital. So you're actually gathering that operational data that will enable you to utilize it to improve your processes down the line.
And I guess your background in lean, I mean, you mentioned there around behavioral changes.
Yes.
Obviously, when you walk into an organization that's never seen lean before, and you start talking about removing waste and removing time and removing actions and removing any sort of waste categorization, I guess at this point, all of that is good from a personal perspective because that's a transition that you're obviously advocating now with this new technology.
Well, yeah, new technology, of course. A lot of people might run into the word lean and it might have negative association related to it because people think about cost reduction programs, and that's not what it is. Lean is about respecting the individual, respecting their time, and at the end of the day, my goal is to see a smile on their face, and know that I've been able to help them resolve problems, remove those frustrations in their work, and make sure that they're in a position where they can take charge of their own work, which makes it more meaningful for them.
Okay, brilliant. No, and I guess what we're hearing around straight from Dirk in terms of the transition that we need to make. We need this digital acceleration or transformation, etc. We know this. We know that there are different ways that we can implement. There is an overwhelming need. And Dirk mentioned his kids, which I always love to hear. I have two beautiful daughters myself, and this next generation isn't going to put up with the crap that they're going to inherit from us. So we do need to accelerate this, as well as the fact that our planet is burning. So this technology is an incredibly important aspect to it. And Mikko, you're the odd one out here, clearly. This is the underlying, I suppose, transformation needs the bedrock of what you and your organization do. Tell us a little bit about where you're coming from and what that might be.
So I'm working in a small city of Kajaani, there north into Finland, and at CSC, IT Center for Science. And we are actually a state-owned company. 70% is owned by Ministry of Education, and then the Finnish universities and University of Applied Science, they own the rest 30%. And we have kind of a special task to provide IT services for the universities and education and academic. And but we are also in Kajaani hosting the Lumi, the Aero HPC supercomputer, which is actually the fastest computer at the moment in Europe. And I'm working there for both for the ecosystem development and also for the Lumi industrial usage.
So when I hear supercomputer, I think of a bunch of nerds and I think of big lights and dashing and all sorts of stuff. Are you guys up there burning taxpayers' money just messing with supercomputers, or what's that got to do with the rest of us? I love that it's the fastest one in Europe. I love the finish, by the way. Whenever you're talking about any sort of ideation, you guys are always at the top. What is this? What is it other than a big computer in a room in northern Finland?
Yes, it's a HPE hardware machine, and it's actually funded by the European Commission partly, and then there is a consortium of the 10 countries. And actually Finland has a quite big share of the Lumi. And
how much?
50, Finland has put 50 million.
50
Total
million.
Budget is 200 million.
Good sweet God.
So as a taxpayer, I would like to see that we really take a benefit of that machine, also for the companies.
And when I talk about 200 million, lots of money, I know probably sitting in your seat, it isn't half enough, really, is it? I mean, is there more investment required, do you think, or what's the scale of what we should be doing in your mind?
You mean with the machine that the
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 20% of the capacity is actually allocated to the industry, and we are not worried about the academic side. There is a lot of usage. For example, the University of Turku has been doing the biggest, the natural language model of the Finnish language, and lot of activities also for the climate research. And you maybe have heard also the Destination Earth EU program. Mm-hmm. It's a 200 million project, and Lumi is also working in that.
200 million more.
Yes,
yeah, wow.
Yes. But of course, then we can also help companies in doing all kind of product simulations and
so is this
save the materials, energy, and.
Is this the engine underneath the internet, if you like? Is that what we're talking about here? Supercomputers?
No, supercomputer it's not like a normal cloud computer. It's also kind of a transformation for the companies, that it's not a system where you can be in a cloud that you just try and test, but you actually had to plan your work and then put it to the queue. And
how many companies are involved in this at the moment?
Companies?
Yes, industrial companies.
We have been starting only this year, and we already have, let's say, 10 companies.
10 already?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. But the time span is to the end of 27.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
we are just in the beginning of the.
You're just starting, and are these large companies predominantly? Are you seeing SME?
Yes, but it's actually very interesting that we have a lot of SME companies.
Okay,
and
good.
This is something that you have to remember also, that it's not only for the large companies.
Yes,
yes.
I know that. I've given out to Siemens since he got here. Tell me,
yes.
Dirk, I love the ideation, and I love what we're trying to say, and I think we're all on the same stage. I think everybody's enthused about this. We want this. Why the hell isn't it working? Why aren't we moving this on? Why isn't this digital transformation taking off? I mentioned I was in Tampere, I think it's 7, 8 years ago now at this stage, and we had a conversation like this that said, Industry 4.0 is coming, it's going to explode. I think the term was coined in Germany in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, and here we are a decade later. And do you think it's moving fast enough, Dirk?
Oh, it is working. It is working massively now.
Okay.
I mean, you remember COVID?
I do.
Do you know how long it normally takes to develop a vaccine and get it in production?
Yes.
A decade. That was done in less than a year.
But was that a regulatory issue, or was that really a transformation?
There was a transformation. I mean, we helped BioNTech and the company at the end of the day ramping their production in no time. We have new companies in agriculture, which are now produced like 80 acres in the United States, which are now producing indoor farming where you have 100 times better efficiency than normal farming, because you need a 100th of water and a 100th of earth. We're creating complete new, with customers, complete new technology, and it's all based on digital transformation. It is working. The question, which you could argue, is why did it take so long to take off? That's something that I ask myself as well, but then I was at the other side, if you like. I was at the disruptor, Amazon Web Service, not yet at Siemens, and I was always saying, wow, these Siemens is working so slow. Why are they going so fast? And I think there are two, at least from my personal perspective, two main reasons. The first one was there was no pressure to change, because you had these factories running for 30, 40 years, and they all run the same. But since 40 or 50 years, they're polluting the environment. But as long as you didn't care, and it was more important to produce as cheap as possible something, then you didn't mind. So the collateral costs people were not aware of, or at least they deprioritized. And I think everybody now understood over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, even more so, how important that is. So you can't just run your systems as they were. And the second thing is, you talked about it, it's not about technology, but it's about culture. New technology is always difficult in the beginning. You don't understand it. It's about software. If I'm educated as a mechanical engineer and it's all in software, I don't understand software. I have to learn new tricks. So it's the human element of understanding if you have very different skills. And I really believe, I mean, the old systems worked, but now you just say it's simply not good enough. And now that we have that pressure, particularly from sustainability, and regulation in Europe will do its thing. I mean, if the cybersecurity and the AI regulation go through, industry will be at the verge of the biggest disruption ever, also driven by regulation. And I mean, this all comes our way, and technology is there, so it's now how fast can we apply it? It's not how fast can we develop it, it's more or less how fast can we deploy it and how fast can we adopt it.
I love that approach. And I think from a regulation perspective in Europe, we can be negative about regulation, but actually there's an opportunity within this as well. We are the global leaders in this space. We are the ones that set the bar. There is such a thing as a European value system. We do share that right across Europe. So I do see it positive. Dirk, I'm delighted you threw the COVID one out there because it's a lovely example. What's the technology? Just as a human being now, not from Siemens in your role or whatever. What's the technology that's emerging? We'd say from an industrial perspective, that you're most excited about? What's the one that you go, oh wow, I want to talk to my kids about this one, or my grandkids, or what's the one? What's the coolest?
There's only, I was just talking this morning with Antti about this, and the one which now I think everybody realized, it's called artificial intelligence. So what, of course, my former employees, Microsoft and AWS and Google's of this like, since years put all the investment in with the advance of ChatGPT. Everybody now, even my mother realized this, that she can go and ask questions with large language model. But artificial intelligence, which is by the way based on supercomputing, if you like, because you need to crunch an awful lot of data. It's when you use a massive amount of correlation data and you can uncorrelate the data and you could get patterns out of that. That is most likely the most important technological change that is in the making since the last 15 years. And now because we have such an amount of compute and such an amount of data that is accessible to everybody via the internet, people realize how transformational that will be.
Are you scared of it?
I mean, it's like always, are you scared of a hammer? If it's hit on my head, yes. If I use it nicely, then, and for doing something, then I'm delighted that I have one.
Do you worry about the other guys that hold the hammer? Is it a concern?
As I said, don't blame the tool, blame the usage of the tool. Of course, you can do bad things with artificial intelligence. You can do great stuff with artificial intelligence. And I think you were talking about regulation and being, you have to be, of course, responsible with the old technology that you do. I mean, nuclear is the best example.
Yes.
So very responsible, very unresponsibly what you can do is with all, but the technology will come anyway because the gain and the advancements that it will bring, there's just too much to gain from it. And then of course we need to make sure that we also put the right mechanisms in play that you don't misuse it. Like
there's too much to gain from that. I keep saying that. You're right. Please, yes?
Yes, you were asking that are we progressing in this sustainability and green issues that I have been following this data center sector and business now 2.5 years only. And already in this time I have seen a lot of change because the big companies are really now moving from the talk to the actions.
Okay.
And of course this is pretty much of the kind of regulations and rules that the EU has been setting. But for example, for the data center sector, there is over 100 operators and companies already signed this kind of data center environment and pack. So they are commitment to the improving their energy efficiency and that kind of things.
Kenneth, same question to you. What's the technology that most excites you? And I guess it's probably an XR vision of the world and so on for you, if I can speak for you. What's the impact to the human being? I mean, are we going to put these headsets on our humans? Are they going to become dystopian type futuristic workers that have no minds of their own? And it's an abuse of a situation, really. Or where do you see it in terms of technology in your space? What are you excited about?
Well, obviously, now working in XR, that immersiveness that comes with the technology, hardware is developing very rapidly. I mean, extremely fast. Just yesterday, we saw Apple with their new headset.
Yes.
You know, it is coming, It's just a matter of how quickly are you going to adapt. You're going to be able to enable your people to make decisions on the spot. I like to ask a question, from different board members when I'm speaking with them. It's like, how much better are you at decision making today than you were yesterday? And it really comes to that, like, how adaptive is your culture? How are you enabling your people to solve those problems? How are you enabling them to make those decisions? On what level? If you can bring that decision-making level down to where the work is happening, that's where the speed comes in. That's when you're making quick changes, and that makes it, again, meaningful for the people. So designing user interfaces, that user experience with the technology, they're not going to be these huge massive headsets forever. And soon they'll be like normal.
The one that I saw in your stand is smart. That's quite a light headset. I mean, like if I'm, and I don't want to misconstrue your industry sector, but I as a worker, I'm wearing something that allows me to see the real world, but you superimpose data on it. And I guess Siemens have a play in this, and everybody has a play in this in terms of what it is. But that sounds extraordinarily futuristic. I mean, how much of an impact? And again, I asked Dirk the question: why isn't this thing moving fast enough? Why aren't I seeing that everywhere? Like, is it a price issue? Is it a health and safety issue? Is technology not there quite yet? Is it a software problem? Why aren't I seeing this in every single Siemens plant, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously the value is immense. How much value are you able to bring immediately? It comes down to where you're using it, how you utilize it. The infrastructure even wasn't there before. We're talking a very short period of time where 5G has come out. You're enabling this connectivity on a different level. The hardware is actually now in use in those companies that are most innovative, front runners. They're already using these technologies on a daily basis in their daily work.
Who is using these technologies?
Well, we have examples from Airbus, Audi.
So
BMW.
Airbus, for example, Airbus. There are people in Airbus that wear this headset.
Right.
They're in doing preventative maintenance on a plane, and it points out a problem, I guess. Is that the idea? That's
Practically, it makes it. You're bringing. First of all, your standardized work is brought to you in your vision, and it'll help you. It'll assist you to do that work in a correct sequence, like step by step. Like, how do you do this work correctly, first time? Obviously that creates savings in time, in terms of cost, time, and quality. So
5G, I guess, is coming through, and that's coming. The headsets are getting lighter and cheaper. That's coming.
Those like softwares, for example, this
Yes.
one. You don't even need a connection. You can download it on the actual device, and then it'll connect it, integrate into your system. But basically the value is how you're able to do the work assisted, so that it'll help you do it right the first time. And you can put anybody in the same seat to repeat the work. And that makes the training time extremely much shorter.
Yes, I like the training one. I've always liked training because it's very, very straightforward. So we do a lot of work in Ireland with Intel, for example. Intel have a first-year graduate, FYG, and they have an absolute definition of understanding how many months it takes that person to be proficient in a particular process.
Right.
And if it's 8 months, it's 8 months. There's a cost associated with that. If your training product comes in and it makes it 7 months, there's a saving in that, and that can be quantified, and there's your ROI basis.
Exactly.
Is that the kind of thing that we're going to see in terms of this technology, do you think? Is that the application space it's going to creep into most easily?
Not kind of going to see, but
there.
you're already experiencing it.
Okay.
Those technologies already create that experience, that immersive experience. Like, for example, you create a 3D model of your plant. You can train your people in, I can promise, half the time. Like, that's immediately ROI. You get it
And I guess if it's an expensive process or it's a dangerous process and so on, you can create a virtual training environment.
Exactly
and that
right.
person.
Exactly right. That's a good point. You can simulate dangerous situations like fires or something. How do you behave in these situations? What happens? What creates a short circuit or things like these? You know, you're able to simulate these dangerous situations and have that feeling. You'll remember it always.
Yes. Amy, I've had some great answers to this question. What's the cool tech that sort of you and the guys in KONE are seeing that's going to wow me and others in society?
I think this has already been quite covered here. So a lot about generative AI, of course, and also in the field of XR, metaverse and digital twins. But I just wanted to add a little bit from the discussion before. There is this human factor also in technology adaptations. I think the interesting case with generative AI, with ChatGPT, is it's not only that the power of it, it's how simply it is usable, how easy it is for us to realize, oh, there is. So even the dumb ones of us in management can understand while there is a productivity gain to be made across the company. And I think the similar case can be probably talked about. I think we're not there yet, but with XR, digital twins and so on, it's really once it really helps us to so visually, easily realizing, oh, this is what we're talking about. So this is this is how you can improve the process, and this is how you can do this and that in a very, very intrinsic matter. And I think this is where then I could imagine where the adaptation of the technology would actually start to tip off. So you mentioned that, of course, there's a business model part of it, but I think there's also this how intuitive we can understand as human beings. And I see this as probably quite a lot of technology. These two are what I could see of generative AI already today here, and I think XR digital twins are getting to that latter. Of course, we also see there are quite a number of climate techs today that are also very, very valuable, interesting to achieve the sustainability goals, whether it's from the material side or from the energy side, but there, I think we are a little bit further away from that than this two. Yeah.
Sorry, please, Kenneth.
Yeah, good point, Amy. Exactly. The thing that we're talking about when we talk about digital twins, digitalizing your processes, they are enablers of how you're going to be able to utilize AI effectively in the future. So when you're digitalizing your processes, you're able to get relevant operational data from the field. When you have step-by-step work instructions digitalized, you're able to get data like how much time have we used for this specific step. We can get that video information, pictures, all this data, and that's relevant operational data, and that creates the foundation for you to be able to utilize it to understand where do those variations come from, and that's where the data analytics AI can help you. But the XR technology, the digital tools, they will help you create that foundation on what to build on and how to use that data effectively.
I have little time left, but I want to talk, Amy, you mentioned about people, and I think it's really important, that human in the loop, this idea of the technology and its impact, I think, on our culture, on our society, on how we go forward, the efficacy of it. Where do you see the role, in terms of technology and its development around behavioral change society-wise, or from a company perspective, that whole behavioral element that we need to get right, and clearly we haven't yet?
I think this is a very, very big question. I'm not so sure I can answer that in that way, but what I do see is that if we let's take back to the twin transition topic, right? I think there are still a lot of things today that where the technology development, the business interest, and the sustainability interests are actually going into similar directions. And it's a question about the human behaviors. I think we as companies, on one hand, need to change a little bit about the optimization criteria, because before we were purely optimizing on one criteria, and this is the cost efficiency part. And if we can optimize on both the criteria of that and sustainability, which I think we are doing today, and I think there are still a lot of business interest can be satisfied. And I think if we focus on those part, and there will be changes we can make gradually on that part. So this is what I could see, that trying to find that synergy still across.
That's a very good answer to a very difficult question, Amy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. There you are. Just throw one like that. Mikko, the law of the unintended consequences. You know, Dirk mentioned ChatGPT and these language programs and so on. I mean, the cost of energy that these things are using. I mean, there is a cost there, isn't there? I mean, the fact that we're utilizing this type of data at that level and transforming our societal engagement with technology. Give us a little sense of that. Not a number now, but is that a real problem?
But we know that the IT infrastructure is taking more and more energy. It's especially data centers and networks. And I think the data centers are taking today 3% of the total electric consumption. And I think this is a big thing today, that we have this energy revolution because of this Ukraine crisis, especially in Europe. And we can see that, for example, in Finland and Nordics, that we have a lot of wind power coming, and also, of course, we have hydropower plants, and it's very good for the data centers. So I think the Nordics has now the, let's say, the opportunity to be active on this market.
And are you guys doing anything with the energy that comes out of your system?
Yes. We, Lumi is running totally with the hydropower. It's certificate. And then what is unique in Lumi, that we are maybe one of the first and rare in globally, that we are benefiting the excess heat. So actually the city of KONE is taking this excess heat today district heating system.
So you're connected to a district heating system?
Yes. And this is unique, that there is actually business model.
Love it.
We get money.
You get money. Hey, he's making money. Thanks be to God.
It's quite unique.
You're burning enough taxpayers' money, my friend. I'm delighted to see you making money. The industry guys, just put your hands in the air again. Just put your hands in the air. Just the people from industry. Dirk, a lot of people in the room. What's the one thing, and you're my last speaker, and you've got 1 minute and 35 seconds. What would you say to these guys? I mean, there's so many choices. There's so much going on. It's such a broad width of what they could do. What's the first one easy thing that one of these companies could do right now that would make a difference in terms of engaging in this whole world?
I think I said it before. Speed disproportionately matters. You can't do it alone. We all have to do it together. And just need to be aware of it, and don't be afraid. I mean, I'm with you. It's not about technology, it's about people. You saw it before. I had even my little tiny quote. Just said, just go, join, be part of it. And we have a lot to do, which is great. And we have an obligation to doing it. And we'll do it together. So I'm very hopeful that we can change industry for the better.
I know we can change industry for the better. Absolutely, Kirk. Every time I come here, there's an admission. I think our chairman, who gave us a wonderful ovation this morning in terms of going together, this dogged consistency of collaboration. I think it's a wonderful message. I must say I'm a little bit worried about the panels and the moderators that are going to follow us, because we have been exceptional.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Rizzo.
Well done.
Do you guys do quantum computing as well?
Sorry?
No. Do you do something in quantum?
Yes, we have something.